Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into something that, well, it feels as natural as breathing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out to be this surprisingly powerful ally when we're trying to navigate, one of the biggest challenges we all face, stress.
Right.
We're talking about humor, about laughter, and its profound, sometimes really unexpected power.
Absolutely. I mean, most of us laugh every day, don't we? It might just be a little chuckle at something online or, a proper belly laugh with friends. We mostly think of it as just fun or maybe social politeness.
Yeah, just entertainment.
But when you actually shift gears and look at the research, the science, the psychological studies, observations from clinics, even stories from way back, it becomes really clear. Laughter is way more than just fun.
It's like a tool.
Exactly. It's this sophisticated biological, psychological, and social tool that our bodies and minds actively use, I should say, to process things, adapt, build resilience. It's quite something.
Yeah, and the sources we've pulled together for this deep dive really show that, don't they? That sort of multifaceted nature. We've got the hard science like a systematic review, a meta-analysis looking right at the physiological stuff, especially those stress hormones.
Right, the nitty-gritty.
And then there are articles exploring the psychological side, how humor can actually change our mindset, our perspective when things get tough.
Which is huge.
Huge. And there's a lot on the social stuff, too, how laughing connects us, builds community. Plus, pieces looking at, real-world uses, managing everyday hassles, right up to how it shows up in places like hospitals or work.
Yeah, it's a really rich collection. It goes way beyond just saying, oh, laughter's good for you.
Right.
It gets into the why it's good and how it actually works on all these different levels of, well, being human. And it even touches on the fact that, like any tool, you can misuse it.
That's important, too.
Yeah.
So, okay, our mission here in this deep dive is basically to pull out the key insights, the really potent stuff from all this material. We want to get a clear picture of the science, what's actually happening when laughter helps us cope. We'll explore how it works psychologically, socially.
The glue that holds things together sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And we need to look honestly at when humor maybe isn't helpful or could even be harmful.
Critical point.
And then, maybe most importantly, pull out some practical, real ways you listening can actually intentionally bring more humor and laughter into your life to feel better, to handle adversity better.
Think of it like discovering a superpower you already have, but maybe aren't using to its full potential.
I like that. A superpower.
Yeah, one that can genuinely make a difference in how you feel, how you function, especially when, life just feels overwhelming.
Okay, so let's dive right into the bedrock then, the science. Because, we all feel better after a good laugh, intuitively. But there are real measurable changes happening inside us.
Absolutely. Concrete biological shifts. And the sources, especially that systematic review and meta-analysis you mentioned, really shine a light on one of the biggest findings. The direct hit laughter takes on our stress hormones, specifically cortisol.
Right, cortisol. And this meta-analysis, it's important because it's not just one study, is it? It combines data from 8 different studies?
8 studies, yeah. And over 300 participants in total. So like you said, it's not just one lab finding something quirky, it's pooling the evidence, which makes the conclusions much stronger.
And the main conclusion about cortisol was?
Pretty striking. Spontaneous laughter leads to a significant reduction in cortisol levels.
Significant. That word matters in science. What does that mean in numbers?
Well, the overall average reduction they found, pooling all the data, was 31.9% less cortisol in the groups that laughed compared to the control groups.
Wow, nearly a third?
Yeah, think about that. Almost a third less of a major stress marker on average across different studies, different people. That's a substantial biological shift.
It really is. And didn't they find something about even just one session?
They did. That came out of their sensitivity analysis. Even a single session of induced laughter, so not necessarily long-term therapy, showed a significant effect. An average reduction of 36.7%.
Over a third from just one time. That's pretty amazing.
It is, and it suggests, that the benefits aren't just for people doing weeks of laughter yoga or something. Even getting short bursts of real laughter into your day could potentially trigger this kind of stress reduction.
Okay, so a big drop in cortisol. Let's unpack that a bit. Why is lowering cortisol such a big deal? What does it actually tell us about laughter in our bodies, particularly with stress?
Well, cortisol gets called the body's main stress hormone for a reason. It's released as part of our fundamental stress response system, the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenocortical
Boy, the
axis.
HPA axis, kind of the command center for stress.
Exactly. Think of it as the communication highway for dealing with threats. When you face a stressor, physical, mental, whatever, the HPA axis fires up, cortisol gets released. And that's crucial for short-term survival, fight or flight. But chronic stress, I think it's chronically high cortisol. And that's bad news over time. It messes with sleep, mood, your immune system, metabolism, pretty much everything.
So getting that cortisol level down is directly dialing down that whole stress system.
Precisely. A significant drop in cortisol isn't just a number, it's a physiological signal. It shows laughter is actively helping your body shift away from that state of high alert or tension and more towards calm, recovery, balance.
And the sources mentioned this happened regardless of how people were made to laugh, right? Like watching comedies versus therapy sessions.
Yeah, that was another interesting finding. Whether they watched funny videos, did specific laughter therapy, or maybe just found something genuinely amusing, the effect on cortisol was there.
And they measured cortisol in different ways, too. Saliva, blood.
Yep, serum, plasma, saliva. The reduction was seen across different measurement methods, which, again, just adds confidence to the finding. It suggests it's a real pervasive impact on this key stress hormone. Laughter, however you get it, seems to reliably tweak this fundamental part of our stress biology.
That's fascinating, truly. So, okay, a clear chemical shift in stress hormones, but the sources also talk about a wider range of immediate physical effects, don't they? Beyond just cortisol.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Laughter sets off this wonderful sort of cascade of physical responses. Think about what happens when you have a really good, hearty laugh.
You feel it everywhere.
You do. Your sources mention it stimulates organs, your heart pumps a bit faster, your lungs get a workout, taking in more oxygen, your muscles contract and relax, especially in your face and stomach, even your shoulders.
Yeah, you can definitely feel that sort of exertion, almost, that physical engagement.
It's like a mini workout. And crucially, this physical activity triggers the release of endorphins.
The feel-good chemicals.
Exactly. They're often called the body's natural painkillers or mood boosters. They bind to opioid receptors in the brain, and that gives you feelings of pleasure, euphoria, and they genuinely can reduce pain perception.
So that instant feeling of lightness, that rush of well-being you get after laughing hard, that's the endorphins kicking in.
That's a big part of it. Your body's basically rewarding you, giving you a natural mood lift and a bit of pain relief.
And what about the stress response itself? Does laughter just bypass it?
Not quite. It actually engages it first. Your heart rate, your blood pressure might go up slightly right at the peak of the laugh, but then almost immediately after, it brings on a cool down phase, a relaxation response.
So it activates and then deactivates the stress system.
Precisely. That cycle activation followed by relaxation is super effective at getting rid of physical tension. It soothes your muscles, gets your circulation going, and leaves you with this lingering sense of physical calm and ease.
I definitely felt that. Like after a really tense moment, just dissolves because someone makes a joke. It's like a physical weight lifts.
That immediate shift, that feeling of unwinding, that's a direct result of these short-term physical benefits. It's your body's quick way of shifting out of that tense fight-or-flight mode.
Okay, so immediate perks are clear. Cortisol down, endorphins up, muscles relaxed. What about the longer term? Do the sources suggest laughter can have lasting benefits for our physical health?
The potential seems to be there, yeah. Though, some areas naturally need more long-term research. One area that comes up is the immune system.
How so?
Well, the general idea, backed by some studies, is that chronic stress and negative thoughts can actually suppress your immune function, make you more vulnerable.
Right.
But positive emotional states, like the joy and amusement that come with laughter, might do the opposite. They might trigger the release of neuropeptides that help fight stress and could potentially boost immune responses, like increasing antibody production. It's a proposed link, basically, between your mood and your body's defenses.
So cultivating a more positive outlook, maybe through humor, could actually help your body fight things off.
That's the hypothesis, yeah. Another area with some really intriguing possibilities is pain relief, kind of extending that immediate endorphin effect. Laughter might actually prompt the body to keep producing its own natural painkillers.
And isn't there that famous story about Norman Cousins?
Ah, yes, the sources bring him up. It's a widely cited case, though initially anecdotal. He had the severe condition ankylosing spondylitis back in the 60s. And he wrote about his own sort of self-prescribed regimen.
Which included watching comedy, right?
Exactly, high doses of vitamin C, but also intentionally watching funny stuff, particularly Marx Brothers films, apparently to help manage his intense pain.
And he published this, I think I read about that, in a medical journal.
He did, remarkably. An account in the New England Journal of Medicine and later his book Anatomy of an Illness. He famously claimed that just 10 minutes of genuine belly laughter gave him at least 2 hours of pain-free sleep.
Wow.
And he said it, along with the vitamin C, helped lower his inflammation markers, like his ESR levels. Now, obviously, it was one person's experience and it faced scrutiny.
Sure, N of 1.
Exactly. But it was hugely influential. It really sparked interest in the whole mind-body connection and the idea that humor could be therapeutic.
And has more recent research followed up on that idea about laughter and pain?
It has, yeah. And interestingly, it seems to align with Cousin's basic idea. Studies have actually shown people have a higher pain tolerance after watching funny videos compared to neutral ones.
So they can literally withstand more pain.
Seems like it. And other research suggests that letting patients recovering from surgery choose and watch funny movies might actually reduce their need for pain medication.
And the choice part seems key there.
It does. It highlights not just the potential pain relief, but maybe the importance of personal preference and feeling some control when using humor therapeutically.
So the idea of laughter as natural pain management isn't just a cool story anymore. There's actual research building behind it.
Right. And then finally, the sources touch on potential benefits for your heart, cardiovascular health.
How does laughter help the heart?
Well, studies have linked laughter and humor to better endothelial function. That's basically how well the inner lining of your blood vessels is working. And also to better carotid arterial compliance, the flexibility of those big arteries in your neck.
Okay, and those are generally markers of good cardiovascular health.
They are, and some sources suggest these positive effects on blood vessel function might even last up to 24 hours after laughing.
24 hours?
Yeah.
That's a pretty long effect from just laughing.
It is significant. And zooming out even further, some big population studies, epidemiological ones, have suggested there might be an inverse link between how easily and often someone laughs and their risk of developing coronary heart disease later on. This connects to broader research linking optimism, which often walks hand in hand with humor and laughter, to lower rates of heart disease, lower overall mortality, and even being linked to living an exceptionally long life.
So being a generally cheerful, laughter-prone person might actually contribute to a longer, healthier life.
The evidence certainly points in that direction. It suggests that cultivating that kind of disposition isn't just about feeling good in the moment, though that's great too, but it could have real long-term physical health payoffs.
Wow. Okay, so the science is pretty compelling. Laughter isn't just fluff. It causes tangible, positive changes, stress hormones, feel-good chemicals, relaxation, maybe even immune support, pain relief, and heart health benefits down the line. It's like a built-in biological resource.
Absolutely. A powerful one.
So moving beyond the purely physical, let's talk about the psychological side. Humor as a lifeline for our minds. How does it help us deal with the internal stuff? Stress, tough emotions, difficult situations?
Well, on the most immediate level, as we kind of touched on with endorphins, laughter is just a really potent, fast-acting mood booster. The sources all pretty much agree on that. It just instantly lifts your spirits.
Yeah, you feel lighter right away.
You do. It activates those reward pathways in the brain similar to other pleasant things, and that helps ease feelings of anxiety, negativity, that sort of thing.
Okay, so instant mood lift. What else?
Importantly, it acts as a constructive way to release emotions. When you're dealing with stress, frustration, sadness, anger, laughter can be a channel to let out some of that pent-up emotional energy.
Like a release valve.
Exactly. It's a form of emotional regulation. It lets you express and process intense feelings in a way that feels less overwhelming or destructive than, say, bottling it up or just exploding.
So it's not necessarily just distracting you from the tough emotions, but maybe helping you move through them.
That's a really key distinction when it's used adaptively, yes. It gives you a bit of temporary distance, maybe, but not permanent avoidance. And this mood boost you get from humor, it's not trivial. It's actually linked to higher levels of resilience.
Resilience, right?
Yeah. Studies using things like laughter therapy have shown it can reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety. So engaging with humor seems to help foster a more positive emotional state overall, which makes you better equipped to handle whatever comes next.
Which brings us back to that idea of resilience. And one of the most powerful psychological benefits seems to be how humor can shift our perspective, right? Help us reframe negative stuff.
Absolutely. The sources really hammer this point home. Humor gives us this amazing ability to find the funny side or the irony, or sometimes just the sheer absurdity in difficult or even painful situations.
Finding the absurdity, I feel like that's almost an instinct sometimes, isn't it? When things are going really, really wrong, you just have to laugh because it's so ridiculous.
It often is, and there's real psychological power in doing that. It lets you step back just for a moment from the immediate pain or the overwhelming feeling.
Creates a bit of distance.
Exactly. That mental distance doesn't make the problem vanish, obviously, but it makes the intense emotions feel less consuming, more manageable. It's like taking a breath and seeing the whole picture from a slightly different angle instead of being trapped right inside the feeling.
And that shift in perspective, it can change how you actually deal with challenges, how you learn from them.
Definitely. It can turn frustration into maybe seeing an opportunity, or shift your focus from, oh, I failed, to, okay, what did I learn? Or where's the potential for growth here? The sources point out that people who are good at using humor to reinterpret setbacks or failures tend to report higher life satisfaction overall. This mental flexibility, this knack for seeing the lighter side or finding humor when things are tough, it's a key part of optimism and psychological resilience. It helps you bounce back faster.
So it's not just about making the bad stuff feel less bad, but about actually changing your relationship with the difficult situation itself.
Well put. It empowers you to respond more actively, more constructively. And speaking of dealing with personal stuff, the sources also talk about self-deprecating humor.
Laughing at yourself.
Right. Playfully acknowledging your own flaws, mistakes, awkward moments. When it's done healthfully, that's the key caveat, it can actually be incredibly positive.
How so?
Well, it can boost confidence by showing you're okay with not being perfect. It can reduce self-doubt because you're taking the power away from potential criticism. It can disarm perfectionism. And ultimately, it helps build self-acceptance.
When done healthily, that seems like a really important qualifier. We should probably come back to the unhealthy side later.
Definitely. We absolutely need to. But healthy self-deprecation, the kind that comes from a place of warmth, humility, not self-contempt or harshness, studies link that to lower anxiety and better self-esteem. It makes you seem more relatable, more human. It shows you have perspective on yourself.
And it can take the wind out of other people's sails too, right? If you laugh at your own mistake first.
Precisely. It disarms potential criticism. And, on an even deeper level, the sources mention finding humor even in really profound difficulties, like dealing with the irrationality of mental illness.
How does that work?
There was an anecdote mentioned, I think, from NAMI about someone in a psychiatric unit finding moments of humor and how that ability to laugh, even when feeling completely powerless against their condition, gave them this crucial sense of control. It's a way of taking something huge and overwhelming and feeling like you have some agency over it just by seeing its absurd side.
Wow. So psychologically, humor is like this amazing multi-tool. It lifts mood, releases tension, shifts perspective, helps reframe challenges, builds resilience, supports self-acceptance, and can even offer a sense of control when things feel chaotic. It's a vital internal resource.
It really is incredibly versatile.
Okay, so beyond our own heads, humor is obviously deeply social. It's such a big part of how we connect with each other. How does it work in our relationships, in our communities?
Shared laughter is just one of the most powerful bonding agents humans have. The sources hit this point again and again. Laughing together strengthens connections, deepens bonds and friendships, romantic relationships, families, even just among acquaintances.
You feel it instantly, don't you? That sense of closeness after sharing a good laugh.
Absolutely. It's like creating this immediate shared experience, a little piece of history between you, and you can measure the benefits. Studies show couples who use humor and laugh together report significantly higher relationship satisfaction.
Higher satisfaction, okay?
And there's a physiological angle, too. Shared laughter, like other positive social interactions, can trigger the release of oxytocin.
Ah, the bonding hormone or cuddle chemical.
Exactly. So it's like your body is chemically reinforcing that feeling of connection you get when you laugh with someone. It's biological validation of the bond.
That makes sense.
And sharing funny stories, especially about tough times you've navigated together, that reinforces mutual support, enhances emotional well-being within friendships. It creates that feeling of, we're in this together, and we can find light even in the dark together.
Reduces that feeling of being alone in your struggles.
Massively. The sources even mention something fascinating, that laughing together can actually sync up brain activity between people.
Seriously, like our brainwaves align.
Apparently so, in certain regions, which might increase empathy and understanding between those people.
That's incredible. Brainwave synchronization from giggling. It really shows how deep that connection goes.
It really highlights the profound level at which humor works in human interaction. And this bonding power, it extends into work environments too. Humor can genuinely change the feel of a workplace, especially high-pressure ones.
Okay, how does that work in a professional setting? Seems like it could be tricky.
It can be, but when used well, it lightens the mood, obviously, makes the atmosphere less tense. But things like playful banter, sharing appropriate jokes, finding moments of shared amusement, they ease tension, reduce friction between colleagues, build rapport.
Creates a bit more camaraderie.
Exactly. It fosters that sense of camaraderie, makes work feel less like just a grind and more like a shared effort. And this boost in morale isn't just about feeling good. Studies mention actually link teams that use humor more effectively to lower rates of burnout and, interestingly, higher productivity.
Lower burnout and higher productivity. That sounds like a win-win. That's a strong case for encouraging a bit more lightness at work.
It certainly suggests that humor isn't just a distraction from work, but potentially a tool that enhances team cohesion, stress management, and maybe even effectiveness. Things like team-building activities that incorporate humor can help break down hierarchies, create a more open atmosphere for communication.
So benefits for the individuals and the team's output.
Seems so. And then, thinking even broader, shared laughter just fosters a sense of belonging, of community. It makes people feel included, which is a powerful antidote to isolation, especially during stressful times.
Yeah, feeling like you're part of something.
And joking about shared struggles, even if the jokes are simple, it provides this kind of emotional security. It creates a safe space where you feel okay being vulnerable because you know others get it. They share that experience.
Like saying, yeah, this is tough, but hey, we're all in the same boat and maybe we can laugh about the leaks together.
Exactly that. There's a great example from one source, UTMB, observing hospital patients using something they call jocular griping.
Jocular griping? What's that?
It was patients humorously trading complaints about their illnesses, the hospital food, the treatments, whatever. It acted as this really powerful coping mechanism. It reduced their anxiety, their frustration, helped them feel a bit more in control in a situation where they had very little.
So they turned complaining into something shared and funny.
Yeah, it transformed these individual gripes into a kind of group pleasure, a shared experience. And it actually helped socialize the patients, made them feel less alone and more connected to each other.
Jocular griping. I love that term. It really speaks to that resilience you can find in collective humor, even in really tough spots.
It really does. And that leads us nicely into the specific role of humor in medical settings generally, which the sources cover quite a bit, which is, of course, an area needing huge amounts of sensitivity.
Yeah, it feels like a really challenging place to bring in humor sometimes.
It is, absolutely. But humor works on different levels there, too. In communication between, say, a doctor and a patient, it can be surprisingly effective. It can help bridge that gap, show caring and empathy in a less formal way, and relieve some of the anxiety patients naturally feel.
It makes the interaction feel more human.
Exactly. And interestingly, patients sometimes use humor themselves as a way to maybe indirectly bring up concerns they're hesitant about, or express frustration, or even just signal how they're coping.
So a doctor who's paying attention to a patient's humor might actually learn more about what's really going on for them.
Potentially, yes. It can be a subtle channel of communication. And here's a really compelling finding that was mentioned. Physicians who report using humor more often in their practice tend to have a lower history of malpractice claims.
Whoa, really?
Oh, yeah.
Lower malpractice claims.
Yeah. Now, correlation isn't causation, lots of factors involved, obviously, but it suggests that maybe the better communication, the stronger rapport, perhaps the stress reduction that comes with appropriate humor might contribute to better patient relationships and fewer negative outcomes leading to claims.
That's really thought-provoking, a surprising link.
It highlights how humor might actually strengthen that therapeutic relationship. And beyond the doctors, humor gets used in patient care more broadly, especially by nurses who often have more bedside time.
How do they use it?
Well, trying to improve patient mood, quality of life, sometimes through formal programs like humor carts with funny movies or books, or maybe a humor resource center. These can offer distraction, temporary relief, especially from ongoing pain.
Distraction can be powerful when you're stuck in a hospital bed.
Absolutely. And the sources are crystal clear on this. Humor should never be forced on a patient. Sensitivity is everything. You have to gauge their mood, their condition, their cultural background. What's funny to one person might be offensive or feel dismissive to another.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
The last thing you'd want is for a joke to feel like it's minimizing what they're going through.
Exactly. It has to be an offer, a potential comfort, not a prescription. And humor is also incredibly important for the healthcare professionals themselves.
Oh, I bet. The stress must be immense.
Immense. Dealing with that level of stress, the long hours, the emotional toll, they need strong coping mechanisms. And humor is a primary one. It helps them manage stress, build team cohesion, keep morale up. Medical students, too, they rely heavily on humor to cope with the pressure of training and to bond with each other.
You can only imagine the need for that kind of release valve in those environments.
Definitely. The sources also mention something called gallows humor.
Right. That sort of dark humor.
Exactly. It's often seen as a subcultural thing among medical staff, especially in really high-stress areas like emergency rooms. It's a way of coping, processing traumatic or morbid or deeply upsetting things by creating a shared language around them. But, and this is critical, the sources emphasize how vital it is to shield patients and families from this type of humor. It's easily misunderstood, can be deeply offensive, and it's meant as an internal coping tool for this staff, not for public consumption.
Okay, so humor in medicine is complex. A powerful tool for connection, care, coping, but one that needs extreme care and awareness.
It really drives home how versatile humor is, but also how potentially tricky it can be, depending on the context, the audience, the intent, all the way from casual banter to these really intense, high-stakes situations.
Okay, we've spent a lot of time talking about all the good stuff, the benefits, the positive ways humor works. But as you've hinted, and the sources definitely point out, it's not always helpful. There's another side to this coin.
Yes, and this is such an important counterpoint. Several sources really stress this. Humor can become maladaptive. One of the biggest ways is when it's used primarily for avoidance.
Avoidance? Avoidance of what?
Of feeling, of acknowledging and actually processing difficult emotions. Sadness, grief, fear, anger, the pain from trauma or chronic stress, you name it.
So using jokes to just
Right.
not deal with the hard stuff.
Exactly. If humor becomes your go-to, your only response when something tough comes up, or if you use it constantly as a shield to keep people at arm's length, then it stops being a coping tool and starts being a barrier. It doesn't help you heal or genuinely work through the difficulty. It just helps you hide the pain from yourself, from owners, especially in situations where actually it might be safe and even necessary to be vulnerable.
So it becomes less about finding light in the darkness and more like using a bright light to just ignore the darkness altogether.
That's a great way to put it. It becomes a mask or armor. Maybe it works for deflection in the short run, but it prevents real emotional engagement and healing in the long run.
And besides just avoidance, are there specific types of humor that are inherently harmful?
Oh, definitely. The sources call out several. Sarcasm, for instance. It can easily be used as a weapon, right? To inflict little digs, criticize, tear someone down, rather than genuinely relieve tension.
Yeah, sarcasm can sting.
It really can. Humor that's used aggressively or defensively all the time, that tends to push people away and cause hurt. One source specifically mentions that even laughing at yourself, self-directed humor, can cross a line. It can go from healthy self-deprecation into something self-harming if it's coming from a place of real self-contempt or fierce anger at yourself, or if you're just constantly putting yourself down in a way that eats away at your self-worth.
Like using a joke not just to acknowledge a flaw, but to kind of reinforce a negative belief about yourselves.
Exactly. The intention and the underlying emotion behind the humor are absolutely crucial. And as we touched on with the medical examples, sensitivity is just paramount. Humor is so subjective. It depends massively on context, on audience.
What one person finds hilarious.
Another might find deeply offensive or insensitive or just plain inappropriate. The Laughter Clinic source had a simple but effective example. A joke that might be fine among paramedics blowing off steam after a rough call could be totally wrong and hurtful if told to, say, a waitress you don't know. It just highlights that difference in shared context. And the UTMB source, again, stressed avoiding ethnic, sexist, or overly sarcastic humor, especially in sensitive situations like patient care.
So recognizing that humor has this shadow side is just as vital as appreciating its benefits.
Yeah.
How can we, listening to this and wanting to use more humor, tell the difference? How do we know if our use of humor is healthy or maybe not so healthy?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Several sources offer some really useful ways to think about this. One key thing is to just pause and check your motivation in the moment.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, why am I reaching for humor right now? Am I using this joke, this lighthearted comment, to genuinely find some perspective or relief in a tough spot? Or am I just trying to dodge feeling something uncomfortable? Is this humor a weapon? Is it actually providing genuine relief and helping me navigate? Is it connecting me with people, or is it pushing them away, isolating me?
Those are really good self-reflection questions. Gets you thinking about the function of the humor.
Exactly. What is it doing in this specific context? Another interesting framework mentioned in the Good Trade source is to notice if your humor feels like a familiar script or if it feels like a spontaneous surprise.
Script versus surprise. Explain that.
Well, if your humorous response is always the same kind of deflection, the same type of joke, a predictable pattern you fall into whenever things get difficult, that might be a sign you're relying on an avoidance script.
Okay. Like a default defense mechanism.
But if humor just kind of emerges unexpectedly, a genuine moment of seeing the absurdity or a witty observation that surprises even you, that's more likely to be a sign of healthy processing, of cognitive flexibility kicking in.
Script versus surprise. That's a really helpful distinction to keep in mind.
Ultimately, though, the sources all stress that humor, powerful as it is, isn't a cure-all. It shouldn't replace genuine emotional engagement or processing difficult things or seeking professional help like therapy when you need it. It's about balance. Using levity to complement seriousness, not using one to completely erase the other.
So the aim is conscious, mindful use of humor. Knowing its power, but also its potential downsides. Using it to help face reality, not run away from it.
Precisely. Recognizing when it's truly helping you navigate versus when it's just stopping you from engaging at all.
Okay, so given everything we've talked about, the science, the psychology, the social stuff, even the potential pitfalls, how can someone listening actually intentionally bring more of this healthy, adaptive humor into their life? What are the practical steps?
Yeah, the sources offer some really concrete, actionable ideas. A big one is simply making humor a more deliberate, routine part of your day. You kind of have to actively seek it out sometimes, not just wait for it to magically appear.
Put it on your radar. As one source said, make it intentional.
Exactly. Like, start your day by consciously consuming something funny. Watch a short stand-up clip, read a favorite comic strip, find a funny podcast segment for your commute. Just inject a little humor early on.
Okay, what else?
Keep a humor journal. This could be super simple. A notebook, a note on your phone. Just jot down things that make you smile or chuckle during the day. An absurd thing you saw, a witty comment someone made, something silly your pet did, a moment of relatable clumsiness.
That's a great idea. It kind of trains your brain to notice the funny stuff more, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. You become like a collector of amusing moments. And alongside that, actively seek out funny content in your downtime. Make a point to watch comedy specials, funny movies, read humorous books or essays, find joke websites or social media accounts that actually make you laugh. Make consuming humor a deliberate, enjoyable part of your self-care routine.
So building it into the day. What about quick things for when stress hits hard, right in the moment?
Yeah, there are some simple techniques. One is that fake laugh idea we mentioned, sometimes called biofeedback laughter, like in laughter yoga. Even if you don't feel funny, try forcing a laugh for, say, 30 seconds or a minute.
Just physically making the sound.
Yeah. Mimicking the physical act can often, surprisingly, trigger the real physiological and psychological benefits, the endorphin release, that relaxation response. Your body can sometimes trick your mind into feeling better.
So fake it till you make it, literally.
Kind of. Another technique is playful mindfulness. When a minor annoyance happens, you spill your coffee, the website crashes, you miss the bus instead of instant frustration, pause. Try to find the humor. Reframe it playfully in your head. Well, isn't that an artistic new splatter pattern? Or guess the universe wants me to practice patience today.
Finding the slightly silly angle in everyday frustrations.
Exactly. It's a conscious choice to shift perspective. And then a really crucial practical step is tapping into the social power of humor.
Yeah.
Actively make time for the people in your life who genuinely make you laugh. Prioritize those connections.
Surround yourself with funny people.
And be one for them too. Make it a two-way street. Share funny stories, jokes, observations with them. That shared laughter actively builds those bonds and provides mutual support.
Like building your own personal laughter support network.
You got it. You could also organize activities that naturally invite laughter game nights with silly rules, watching a comedy together, even just sending funny memes back and forth.
Definitely sounds more fun than just sitting alone worrying.
It usually is.
Yeah.
And finally, it's about cultivating a more humorous mindset generally. This is the deeper shift. Pay attention to the ridiculous, the ironic, the absurd things that happen every day. They're often hiding in plain sight.
My commute usually provides plenty of material there.
Agrees lightly. Often the best stuff is in those relatable, imperfect moments. Use self-deprecating humor thoughtfully, playfully, like we discussed, from warmth, not contempt. Be okay laughing at your own minor blunders.
Without being harsh on yourself.
Right. And importantly, try to encourage and model a culture of humor where you can at home, maybe at work if it fits. When setbacks happen, try being the one who can offer a lighthearted comment, mindfully, of course, to show it's not the end of the world, that finding levity is an option.
Like, if I can laugh about messing up the presentation slide, maybe my team feels a bit less stressed about it too.
Exactly. It sets a different tone, makes challenges feel less overwhelming. Just remember, building this humorous mindset, integrating laughter. It's a skill. It takes practice, conscious effort, like any other habit for well-being. But even just starting with the physical act, like laughter yoga, can kickstart those benefits. It's an active choice you can make.
Wow. This deep dive really shown that laughter is just so much more than a reaction to a punchline, isn't it? It's this incredibly powerful, accessible tool with real implications for our bodies, our minds, our connections.
It's definitely a complex dynamic system, operating on biological, cognitive, social levels all at once, and we're probably still just scratching the surface of fully understanding it.
We covered that solid scientific evidence, the cortisol drop, the endorphins, the potential longer-term impacts on immunity, heart health,
The physiological nuts and bolts.
and then the psychological powerlifting mood, releasing emotions, shifting perspective, reframing challenges, building resilience, even that nuanced thing about healthy self-deprecation.
Right, how it helps us navigate internally.
And its vital role socially strengthening relationships, making workplaces better, building community, even its surprising use in places like hospitals.
Well, connective tissue of humor.
But we also looked hard at the other side. That humor can be used badly for avoidance, as a weapon, and how crucial it is to be mindful, to ask why we're using it. That script versus surprise idea.
Yeah, acknowledging the potential pitfalls is just as important as celebrating the benefits.
And thankfully, we ended with those practical steps, making it routine, quick techniques, sharing laughter, cultivating that mindset, real things people can try.
Absolutely, making it actionable.
So it's clear, isn't it? Humor doesn't make stress disappear. It doesn't solve everything. And it definitely shouldn't stop you from feeling your feelings or getting help.
No, it's not a replacement for those things.
But it is this readily available, enjoyable, and pretty effective tool that can genuinely help manage stress, build resilience, and just improve overall well-being. It's about equipping ourselves to face things with maybe a bit more lightness.
Well said. Adding levity to the load without necessarily minimizing the weight of the challenge itself.
So, as you listening move forward, dealing with whatever life throws your way, maybe consider this thought for yourself. Perhaps the greatest strength isn't found in never stumbling at all.
But in learning to find the humor in the trip, when you do stumble,
Picking yourself up.
and choosing to laugh your way back up and just keep going.
Yeah.